Welcome everyone to church this morning. It's so good to be with you in this way. Now, as you know, things are a little bit different today because most of church is on the camp, the weekend away. They're having a great time at Scott's Head. I, however, am not at Scott's Head. I am in Rome, as you can see from the Colosseum right there. So we're coming to you from Rome today. Now what's going to be happening is in a moment we'll have a song, and then we'll have a Bible reading, and then we'll have the talk, and then after that I'm going to be in Greece. So I'll see you then.
This life I live is not my own, for my Redeemer paid the price. He took it to be His alone, to be His treasure and His prize. The things of earth I leave behind to live in worship of my King. His is the right to rule my life. Mine is the joy to live for Him. I died to sin upon the cross. I'm bound to Jesus in His death. The old is gone, and now I must rely on Him for every breath. With every footstep that I tread, what mysteries He has in store. I cannot know what lies ahead, but know that He has gone before. There is a voice that pierced the grave, a power that rolled the stone away, a sound of life. I know I'm saved. The voice of God has called my name. So I will rise, and in the air behold the glory of the King. I will not fear to meet Him there. I know my life is hid with Him. So I will rise, and in the air behold the glory of the King. I will not fear to meet Him there. I know my life is hid with Him.
For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted them to his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 more talents. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Okay, so here I am in Greece, and while I'm over here and a bunch of people are at camp, there are still a bunch of you faithful ones who have come to church today, so welcome. It's good to be with you. It's good to be with you in this way, at least. And I didn't want you to feel left out, so yeah, I'm coming to you from Greece. Now, I really can't understand why anyone would want to settle for the type of Christianity that's merely religious. Actually, here's one of the people on our team. Here we go. I'll say hello.
Hello.
You're saying hello to our church. I'm preaching.
Okay.
Now, what was I saying? That's right. I was saying that, the type of Christianity that's merely religious and maybe a little bit of socializing afterwards, but then it's sort of back to the everyday after that. I mean, isn't Christianity meant to be so much more than that? It's meant to be... Sorry, I've got to keep adjusting things and make sure I'm looking where I'm walking. It's meant to be so much more than that, isn't it? So not only can I not understand it when I see it in others, but I can't stand it when I see it in myself. And it's a really disappointing thing. I mean, the thing we're meant to be part of is the biggest and greatest thing in history. It's got to make a difference to the way that we live our lives. And I reckon if you're honest too, you think the same. You want it to make a difference in your life as well. I don't know if you can see much of that out there. There we go. Anyway, the passage that we're up to today is where Jesus gives us 2 parables about what that difference really looks like. And you're going to hear 2 very challenging parables that will give us really practical ways to ensure and to measure how we're going. Bit of traffic in here in this little Greek street. I'll turn around and give you a bit of a view of it in a minute. There you go. Anyway, we'll keep going. Now, none of this is to put us down or make us feel bad, but it is really to lift our vision about from being merely religious to really growing in our living and growing for the kingdom. Now, Simon last week showed us last week that, I've got to watch where I'm stepping here, showed us last week that the temple will be dismantled and in its place a new temple with Jesus as the cornerstone and his people as the living stones, people from every tribe and language and nation, will be living for him, really living out the presence and kingdom of God in their lives and in the world. Now, I might go back where I've come from because I think I'm going too far. Anyway, the first parable is a parable of the bags of gold, or better known as the parable of the talents. And
The second one is the parable of the separation of the sheep and the goats. So now, because I'm away on an educational tour, thinking about the impact of early Christianity into Rome and Greece and into Italy and Greece and those sorts of areas, I'm accompanied by a whole bunch of other pastors. And so I thought I would get them to tell you what they think these passages are talking about. And the first person I'm going to ask is a guy called Reed Moore. That's R-E-E-D, M-O-O-R-E. And he's from Gwinnett. You can see where Gwinnett is in county. It's Gwinnett County in Georgia, near Atlanta there. And I'm going to see what he thinks about this passage of the bags of gold. So let's go and ask him now. All right, here we are. Here's me, croaky. I'm very croaky.
Yeah.
So you'll have to put up with me not speaking all that well. But this is Reed, and Reed is from Gwinnett.
Gwinnett, just outside of Atlanta.
Just outside of Atlanta. And it's near a place called Athens.
Yes. That's where I went to school.
Oh.
Athens, Georgia.
And now we're near somewhere called Athens as well. But anyway, pretty cool over here in Greece. Now, as I said before, I'm going to ask Reed what he reckons about this passage, the first part of it, which is called the parable of the bags of money or the talents.
Mm-hmm.
What do you reckon? Which one is it? Talents or bags of money? What's the story?
Yeah. It's both, right? Yeah.
Okay.
The talents were money. And so, yeah. So talent was a measurement of money back in the time that's written. So you could really read it either way.
So when we might hear the word talent, we think stuff's something I can do well, play the guitar.
Right.
But it might have that application at the end, but it's particularly about money.
Yeah. Wages.
Wages?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much is a talent?
So I guess the best of my knowledge is a talent was about a year's wage.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a significant amount that Jesus is talking about in this parable.
So one guy gets 5 talents, so 5 years' wages. Another guy gets 2 years' wages. Another guy gets 1 year's wages. And it's the story of how these 3 use this resource that that this master has given them.
Yes.
Okay, so each is given an amount according to his ability.
Right.
What do you reckon that means?
Yeah.
According to his ability.
Yeah. That, it's funny. My wife, this is one of the things that bothered her about this parable for so long.
Okay.
Is the discrepancy in what was given. But I think it's really just Jesus being really, really honest.
Okay.
An honest assessment that each of us has different abilities and different opportunities and different privileges, if you will, depending on, where you were born or what gifts you have or what family you were born into or what social advantages you might have. And so I think he's just acknowledging a reality.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So it's not unfair. He's not giving one more.
Because he likes them better.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It's because, this one's got some ability. We're going to give that there. Okay, so it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon it looks like for someone to put the resources that they've received to work?
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. They the one who gets 5 puts that money to work.
Right.
And he gets 5 more.
Yeah.
2 more. And then the other one we talk about later.
Yeah.
But what do you reckon that looks like to put those resources to work?
Yeah. It's a parable about stewardship. And Jesus is recognizing and teaching us that we are not owners.
Okay.
We're stewards.
Okay, so everything we have, it's not about ownership, it's about stewardship.
Yes. So we live...
That's already a big lesson.
Yeah, like in the my senior pastor back in Atlanta, he says this, he has this phrase that he says, it's the consumption assumption.
Oh.
We assume that if it comes to us, that it's for us. It's ours. And instead, we should think of ourselves as stewards. That if it comes to us, it's meant to flow through us, and we're meant to use it well and to steward it well. And so Jesus is teaching stewardship. So it's not a difficult passage to understand, but to apply it is. And so, yeah, what does it look like to steward it well? I think it's taking whatever talents, privileges, abilities that God has gifted you with, and using them, maximizing them to their fullest potential.
That's pretty hard, isn't it? Like, first of all, to change an attitude from ownership to stewardship. That's tough enough.
Yes.
But then, as you were saying, what was it? If it's coming to you, it's got to go through you.
Yes.
To be able to think that as well.
Yes.
That's easy to understand.
But difficult to do.
Yes. Because all the pressure is against us.
Yes.
We tend to want to find our security. No, let me put that away. A different way. I tend to want to find my security in the money that's coming in.
Yes.
And to start giving that away, I'm trying to think how that might feel with other resources. You know, if I can play the guitar, I'm happy to play the guitar for others or for church or whatever. But when it comes to what Jesus talks about in particular, like he talks about money, sort of money, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's harder.
It is.
That's harder.
It is.
So what do you reckon it looks like to bury your talent? Because this is what the third guy does. And the third guy seems to be the emphasis in the passage. What is it to bury your talent?
Yeah, I think, it's one, if you assume it all comes to, it's to keep it to yourself. I think that's, in a sense, burying your talent would be, I keep it to myself, I think misuse and abuse of your talent. I think there is a self-centeredness to it. There might even be the misuse of it, or even squandering of your talent. Like, I didn't take that thing and maximize it. I was given this ability, I was given this advantage, I was given this opportunity, and I didn't take it and maximize it for the glory of God and the benefit of others.
And even hoarding.
Yes, exactly, hoarding it. Yeah.
Bigger bank balance or whatever it might be.
Right.
That's a challenge. A challenge. Jesus seems to summarize what he's just said in these words, verse 29. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance.
Yep.
Whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken away from them.
That's a lot, yeah.
When do you reckon this abundance is either received or lost?
Yeah. I think, as with most of Jesus's kingdom parables, he's teaching us kingdom ethics. We know the kingdom of God is both a now and not yet. And I think that there's an aspect of many of the applications of Jesus's parables that are now and not yet. They're here and now, and they're also later. So I do think there's definitely a here and now when you are using your abilities and maximizing them, and you're taking what God has given you and you're using it for his glory and the good of others. There is a very real multiplication of not just the ability itself, you grow the ability, but also just you're maximizing your own joy, your own, the treasure on the other side of that, as anybody knows that's ever, if you serve in the church or you've been on a mission trip or you've ever just done a really good job with what God has given you, and you've done it in a way that honors him and benefits others, just, if you're the best accountant you could possibly be, there's an aspect of very real, as that maximizes, it multiplies. And so I think you experience it here and now. And then I think there's also always, with Jesus's parables, there's this now and not yet. There's a very real, when the kingdom comes, and there's obviously going to be some sort of those that are that do a lot with a little
Mm.
are trusted with more
Mm.
in the coming kingdom.
Mm.
You know, and so so I think it's probably a now and not yet. That's my probably read on it.
In Matthew's Gospel, I can't remember which chapter it is, maybe 19 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus says, "Whoever is given up fields, whatever,
Yes.
for my sake, will not fail to receive 100 times as much in this life."
Yes,
And-
and yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yes,
that now and not yet. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's now. There's a very real benefit now, and that later coming of the kingdom.
Okay. So some of these questions we talked about beforehand just to get our heads around them.
Mhm.
But there was one I didn't tell Reed about.
Okay,
And so I'm going to put him on the spot now.
I love it.
He might not love it.
Okay.
Which one of the three in the story do you think you are?
Mm.
The fiver, the twoer, or the barrier?
I think I'm a 2-talent guy. Yeah, I think I'm probably a 2-talent guy, but I have tried to be faithful with the 2.
Okay.
And Lord willing, it's turned into 3 or 4.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
The word in the reading
Mhm.
is servant. These servants are given.
Yes.
But the Greek word is actually slave.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that that terminology of slave changes the feel of the passage? Like, it is the word doulos, which
Mhm.
is slave.
Yeah.
It's not the word diakonos, which is servant.
Servant. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Have you any thoughts about that?
No, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that in great detail, but I mean, there is an aspect of submission to Christ is slavery
Yeah.
to Christ,
Yeah.
and it again, I think a slave bears even more weight as a steward.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's very literally nothing that they have is theirs.
Yeah.
It's all the master's.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
again, you go back to that stewardship. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm responsible for this, but it's not mine.
Yeah.
None of it. Not even the first 5.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so maybe even there might be a sense of, if you were a servant, well, I'm owed an income. You know what I mean? Like, but the slave is like, well, the first 5 weren't mine.
Yeah.
You know?
But also, if you're a servant, you can just bury and then give it back.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of say, I don't want to do this job.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a slave, it's a different story.
No choice.
You have no choice.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's pretty full on, you lazy, wicked slave.
Right.
That's really
Strong language.
Strong language,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
that's really good. They're just trying to work out how to help people to
Mm.
think through this in their own lives. What sort of questions could we ask
Mhm.
ourselves to begin to see where we are in this stage? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Can you think of any question
Yeah,
I should ask myself?
Yeah. I think when I read that, the first question that I think is, what has God given me?
Okay.
What, if you want to say talents, but what has God entrusted to me? What talents, what abilities, what opportunities, what privileges, what tasks, responsibilities.
Yeah.
What has God given me? It might be the responsibility of parenting.
Yeah.
This is something God has entrusted you with,
Mm.
And so what has God given me that I'm expected to steward?
Yeah.
And then maybe the next question is, how am I stewarding it?
Yeah.
Am I stewarding that well? And so you could even do a talents audit, if you will.
Mm.
You could be very practical and look at your bank account.
Yeah.
But you could also expand that to, the career you have, the other opportunities in your life, the privileges that you were afforded, and you go, have I stewarded well each of these things?
Yeah.
And you might just audit that and go, I might be burying over here. I might have been maximizing over here, but what would it look like for me to begin? So I think those 2 good questions.
Yeah.
What has God given me to steward, and am I stewarding it well? That's a great thing to come back to again and again and again.
Yeah.
To, as much as you might reassess each year your budget. You might reassess each year or every 6 months your stewardship of other areas that God's given you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Reed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been really good to have you like this. You're helping me with my sermon prep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Honored.
So the next passage is the passage about the sheep and the goats, which is a really tricky passage.
It is.
So I think we're going to have to upgrade from a pastor to a professor.
We need it.
And that professor has said that he will have a chat with us about this. So maybe tomorrow I'm going to try and get a professor to talk to us about this next passage. So thanks, Reed.
Amazing. Thank you.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Then they also will answer, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you?" Then he will answer them, saying, "Truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life."
Okay. All right. So we've just spoken to Reed about the bags of gold parable, and now we're up to the sheep and the goats. And we've realized last night we had to upgrade from a pastor to a professor. So we've got John Dixon here, and we're going to talk about the separation of the sheep and the goats. But first of all, John, where are we?
We're in a place in northern Greece called Vergina, which happens to be where Philip of Macedon, the father of Alexander the Great, died, and he's buried here. And one of the most spectacular grave sites ever was discovered here. And I think it's cool because it's precisely because of Alexander the Great that our New Testament is in Greek.
Oh, wow.
So, there is a New Testament connection, if you squint.
All right. He would have had a lot of bags of gold.
Yeah,
Indeed. Okay. So when we're thinking about the separation of the sheep and the goats from Matthew 25, it says there, when the Son of Man comes in his glory. When do you see that as being?
Well, I think the key to that whole difficult section from chapter 24, 25 is the opening of 24, where the disciples say, when will these things happen? Meaning the destruction of the temple, because Jesus has just said that the temple will be destroyed. And they say, and what will be the sign of the end? So it's destruction of the temple and sign of the end. And I read, actually, majority of commentators read Matthew 24 and 25 as working on two horizons. Sometimes it's clearly talking about the fall of Jerusalem, which is something that's already happened. And sometimes it's got the long horizon. And I'm of the view that the long horizon is in view in Matthew 25, because it says the Son of Man comes in all his glory, and then it says all the nations are gathered around him for judgment. And that clearly has to be the day of judgment.
Okay. And so there's this very memorable story of Jesus saying to people, when you gave me food, or you gave me water, you looked after me, and they say, well, when did we do this? We don't remember doing this. What do you think the significance is, first of all, of the righteous that are unaware that they've met Jesus and helped him? What's going on there? I don't know.
It is an amazing thing. I think the background theology is very Jewish, because humans are in the image of God. So it shouldn't really surprise us if we go right back to Genesis chapter 1, where it says every human being, man and woman, doesn't matter what their religion, how moral they are or not, everyone's made in the image of God. God regards other people as, in a sense, his family, because this idea of image of God connotes being a kind of family relation to the Creator. And so it shouldn't surprise us, Jesus being God in the flesh, would say that when you treat me honorably, it is as if you're treating God.
So there is this big hint of Jesus saying, the way you treat the image of God is the way you're treating me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, and it ties back to the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus said, if you are in dispute with your brother as you're going to offer your gift at the temple in Jerusalem, drop your gift, go reconcile with your brother or sister, the neighbor, okay? And why is that? Because you can't think you're worshipping God at the temple if you're breaching relationship with the image of God, who is your neighbor.
Okay. So, whatever you've done to the least of these, so these brothers of mine are other humans.
Yeah. There is a view, I mean, as you well know, there has been a view that says it's referring only to Christians.
Oh.
That Jesus is saying, the way you nations treated my people, these brothers, these Christians, some even say it's referring to Christian missionaries, the way the nations treated Christian missionaries will be the thing that determines how you treated me.
Okay.
I don't buy that.
Okay.
In some ways, the oldest view is the one I hold, which is, no, it refers to the humans. Because this word, little brothers or little ones, in the second time Jesus says it, is a term of affection for anyone Jesus loves. And we know from Jesus' teaching, he loves everyone. So I do think it is actually saying how we treat the destitute, the naked, those without food, those without water, is how we're treating God.
So it's been very challenging for me personally, as we've been walking through Rome and seeing people begging, and even yesterday, little kids coming up to the table asking for food, probably more for money. But I sort of asked the question, am I meeting Jesus?
Well, the answer, I think, is yes. Because every little one is made in the image of God. And I was there at lunch when that little kid wanted to eat our leftovers. It was quite confronting. But of course, yes, that little kid's in the image of God, and we have to treat him accordingly.
Yeah, that was pretty tough. Okay, so to sort of finish off, it says there at the end of the passage, is it the weeping and gnashing of teeth bit there?
Yep.
Anyway, out of darkness, whatever it might be.
The eternal fire.
Yeah, eternal fire. Is that talking about hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I know it's a difficult topic, and that's another whole sermon.
Yeah.
But no one preached about hell more than Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
So I think we really have to conclude that all the nations do have an opportunity to, whether or not you've heard the Christian gospel, how you've responded first to God and then to the image of God around you is the criterion of judgment. And the sad thing is, most people without revelation discard the Creator and those made in his image. If I may say one more thing, the direct Old Testament background for this passage is Isaiah 11, where it says the Messiah will come and he will breathe judgment on the nations. And then it says he will give decisions for the poor of the earth.
Ah, okay, Isaiah 11.
Isaiah
We
11.
better look that one up.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure, mate.
If I wanted to find out a bit more about hell, where might I be able to go to?
Well, the Gospels, of course. But I think, we didn't set this up, I promise you. I think he's referring to the episode of Undeceptions that I just released a couple of weeks ago, which is simply called On Hell. So that's Undeceptions, the podcast, On Hell.
So we'll send everyone a link to that so that you can check that out, because I've checked it out and it was, what's the word?
I don't know. I found it so
Somber.
depressing, but also, in a sense, uplifting.
Yeah.
When you think of what Christ has done to rescue even the worst of us.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Professor Dixon.
Shut up, mate. No, Americans call me that. Aussies do not.
All right, thank you. We'll see you in a minute. Well, there you go. We've looked at those two parables. And I'm sorry if it's a bit windy here and you can hear that blowing. I hope you can hear me okay. But here we've looked at those two parables, and really, as Reed shared, the first one is about that tremendous mind shift that we need to make between seeing our resources and our money in that sense of ownership rather than stewardship. So something I've got to keep learning, and I think it's something we have to always learn. We don't learn it once and then remember it all the time, but we continue to do that. So our resources, it's about stewardship, not ownership. Bit of music in the background there. And the second point, as John was bringing to us, was that yes, our salvation is about how we've responded to God, but also how we've responded to those who are in his image. And so we can't ignore the plight of the poor or the hungry or whatever, or even the person in the pew in front of us. We've got seats. The seat in front of us. The way we treat others is the way we treat God. Well, pretty powerful things to think about. I suppose for all of us, we need to leave today thinking, okay, do I have an attitude of ownership to my resources or stewardship? Do I find security in my wealth or security in the Lord Jesus? And that's going to express itself in how I use those resources. If I'm generous at every opportunity, yeah, it's giving at church, but it's much bigger than that, isn't it? And then thinking through that whole question of, is my religion merely between me and God? Because that's not Christianity. True Christianity is between me and God and me and others who are in the image of God. And so I think we need to be really thankful for our ministries like Community at 3, for our desire to reach refugees and to give them the freedom that we have the power to give them, but not limited to those two things. This is the Christian life we are called to. It's so much more than merely coming to church, having a cup of tea, saying g'day, and then saying goodbye. It's so much better than that. And I want to live a better Christian life. And Jesus graciously here is giving us just two things: to think about stewardship rather than ownership, and hence be generous. And to think about loving God means we need to love others as well. And whatever we've done for the least of these, Jesus says, we've done for him. Well, there we go. There's our camp weekend, Nathan, in Greece. I'll give you a bit of a scan before I go. Hey, let's have a look. There you go, there's the sunset. This is Thessalonica, or Thessaloniki. I've still got a croaky voice. And this is where Paul was, obviously, when he was talking to the church in Thessalonica. So we're going to check that out. And tomorrow we're going to Philippi.
So that should be good as well. All right, we'll see you later.
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from Thee. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at Thy feet, its treasure store. Take myself and I will be ever only all for Thee, ever only all for Thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect and use every power as You will choose. Take my will and make it Thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal throne. Take